Welcome to first session in the agency theatre here at Convex. It's a new theatre, and we purposely put it in between EPS and Convex because we thought there was so much cross and so much of a crossing between the two areas of content we can cover. Agencies do so much in the live event space and in the M.I.C.E space that we thought we'd try it this year. So great to see that we've got semi-packed theatre for the first session. It's fantastic. What we're kicking off with today is a session all about collaboration and connection throughout the supply chain. Got a really nice esteemed panel here, all looking at different perspectives. Esteemed, I thought I went for. We like that? Um, all looking at different perspectives and also operating in different points within the supply chain. But ultimately, what we want to get out of today is have a really frank conversation about challenges within that, opportunities also to collaborate better, and what a really good example of a succinct supply chain looks like and what it can do in terms of winning a lot of fine business. So to frame the discussion, kick things off, and it's good that we do some intros. Should we start? We'll go along from right to left. Debs, you want to kick us off? A little intro and your experience in the field.
Yeah, so I'm Deborah. I'm a director of Revolution Events. We are what I like to term a bougie company. We kind of straddle a few different elements of being an agency because I am commercially responsible for everything to do with our events. So we run our own brand events, we run client events, we run partner events, and for every single one of those, that budget is my responsibility. So the supply chain is incredibly important for me for gaining business and retaining business and just making sure we do a bloody good job.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I'm Zoe, head of events for Assemble. So worked in agency side for just over 12 years now. And we have a global supply chain that does everything from brand exhibitions, sort of all the activations, conferences, incentives. So we work with them obviously on all the pitches right through to delivery. And it's a major part of what we do, and we couldn't do it without all of them.
Okay, thank you very much. Pat?
I'm Kat Du. I am co-founder and director at BeaconHouse Events. So working in events for the last 8-10 years. Co-founded BeaconHouse back in 2014 in the Castle of Poptine. As part of my role there, I am the culture and operations director. So operational implementation, supply chain engagement management, and overall kind of coverability of event delivery. We deliver large-scale events, conferences, exhibitions, award ceremonies, leadership events all over UK and Ireland. And main kind of reason, I guess, for being here today is that the kind of supply chain engagement and the foreign implementation challenges that we're finding with that. We have a big focus on sustainability credentials. A lot of that demand comes from our clients to build. So talk a little bit how we manage that in terms of good and not done.
Fantastic. Pizza this out. With GS traditionally large-scale exhibitions, large-scale conference delivery, and most recently have started moving into that agency space, doing some deliveries for the likes of McDonald's and various other different large-scale sort of agency-run exhibitions as opposed to association-run exhibitions, and very much sitting in the heart of that supply chain from build to logistics to just sort of right the way down to the kind of power and all of those sorts of delivery aspects of exhibitions, events, and experience. Thank you very much. So I want to frame the discussions, kick things off with the challenges that the industry is currently facing, or the supply chain is currently facing. As I said, we're very fortunate to have a load of different perspectives on the panel. You also have different markets for the most part as well. So, from each of your perspectives, what have you seen as a big challenge? Not necessarily a market failure, but a real challenge either from the agency-client relationship or indeed the agency-supplier relationship.
Well, yeah, I can jump in with one that is a current challenge of ours, is that in the events world, particularly if you work on annual projects, you're working quite far out. Before you've even had an event, you're working on the next event. Now, if your supply chain are not working on the same timeline as you, you can have some commercial challenges that flag up. So you may be 4 or 5 months into planning a big event, and then somebody in your supply chain will say, actually, we've reviewed our prices. This is now going to impact your budget. And what we're seeing as a company is actually those conversations are happening with every part of our supply chain. We're living in a world where we've all been hit by the NI increases and the cost of living, etc. So it's not just one supplier that's doing that, but for us, the challenge is having those conversations at the right time in our timeline, not in their timeline, to ensure that our budget at the end of each event is a healthy one.
So not space.
Yeah, I mean, the challenges that we face are slightly different depending upon where the supply chain is, whether it's obviously something in the UK or it's something further afield. We're constantly now having to sort of retender for different jobs and look at different ways we pitch. So I think the supply chain are having to sort of modify themselves to be a bit like that as well. They can't just turn out the same thing that they did from last year. You've always got to be more creative. And there's so many suppliers, as an agency, we're constantly inundated with people. We want to work with you. We want to speak to you. So how do you keep this sort of forefront of your mind? Who do you want to work with? But also that new brief that comes in, we never know what's going to come in next. So there's such a broad spectrum in that supply chain, and it's how does supplier keep themselves notable and that you're on their black book, and vice versa when clients are constantly changing their minds, really.
Absolute. Platform perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, I think for everyone here, publicly, the margin thing is really important in terms of like, I think as an agent, we're constantly squeezed margins. Yeah, like cost of living, everything is increasing prices. So I think those tight relationships with suppliers has never been more important. So you're working with people that can rely on you having a really transparent and open conversation with them about the fact that we're getting squeezed. What can you do? Sorry.
Please carry on.
That's fine. You're getting squeezed on price, so what can you do? So if you have these good, trusted relationships, you can, I guess, talk to them about those ways that you can innovate, but not necessarily affect like the bottom line of your budget. I think one of the other things as well, from like my perspective, we have a really diverse range of clients. So we're supplier agnostic. Forgive me for that term, but I mean, we have a black book. We have a preferred list of suppliers, but the really important thing for us is to know that we can have the right supplier for the right job when we need them, based on client demand. And I think one of the challenges for us as agents and just event delivery people generally is the fact that there's such a huge range of suppliers as well. So keeping on top of that black book is just like so essential. So thank you for organizing events like this. It's a really good way to do it. But I think as well, like maintaining those conversations, keeping yourself in a tight network and setting yourself a really strict kind of code of conduct as well. So making sure that suppliers that are on your preferred list are ones that you'd want to work with for the right reasons, that can that reflect the same values that you have whenever you're working with those clients as well. I'll stop talking because I could keep going.
Fantastic. But obviously, Peter, from your perspective, you're almost looking at it, obviously, yes, do a multitude of things, but from your positioning, it's more from the other side of the point. So what have you seen? What challenges have you seen in Mark?
So I think we all mentioned price so far, and escalating prices are obviously a problem. I think the other challenges for agencies is that sort of friction. So the amount of different pieces that you're trying to organize, as I'm sure you guys all know, and I know having worked at agencies for a long time, those teams are very lean, and they need to be lean so that you can be agile and work quickly for your clients and deliver what you want to. I think the multitude, you mentioned it, the multitude of suppliers, there's such a rich supplier network, but if you use 6, 7, 8, 10 suppliers, that increases your friction, that increases the amount of decisions you've got to make, it increases the amount of, I guess, it opens you up to more errors potentially as well. So from our perspective, I think that using the term, I don't love the term one-stop shop, but reducing the amount of friction, reducing the amount of decisions, reducing the points of contact ultimately will give agencies a better product and a better way to service their clients.
Absolutely. Just giving back to your point about constantly being curious and needing to build your supply chain. It's not something that can just sit there and say sale. The importance of tendering. Again, we talked about the different markets you said, the different formats and therefore the different needs. Is there a one size fits all strategy for a good regular tendering process, or is it more a case of you wait to see what the client needs and then you react accordingly? I know there's probably different perspectives. The more so in the association markets, very much led by funds.
Yeah, I mean, working with associations for us, it is brilliant because you tend to develop really long-term relationships. So you get to know what they want. And so therefore you can keep that line of communication open with your supply chain ahead of that 12-month project line that we were discussing earlier. But of course, every event is different, and it's looking at what does that event need, what does that client need. Some clients are very happy with basic level. Some people want bells and whistles, and different suppliers provide different levels of not professionalism, but different levels of perhaps perceived kudos. And again, it does kind of come down to the client's budget.
Absolutely. And I think that was the conversation that we had, particularly the briefing as well, wasn't it? And I noticed it down. It's kind of budget versus everything else, and I've seen that's a big disconnect actually in terms of the end user a lot of the time in the agency, where the increase in expectations seems exponential, but the budgets don't either stay the same or they don't increase. Certainly with the expectation levels or lowered, absolutely. So from that perspective, more on your side of things, with the corporate side of things, have you found that you need really regular tenders? You need to constantly be auditing, constantly be looking for a better opportunity, or is it a case of forging better relationships and getting more value out of the ones that we currently have?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, yes, we have to tender a lot, and I think you have to set your suppliers up when you're tendering for them to be able to succeed as well. There are some that are obviously going to be a higher price point, and that's about knowing your suppliers and knowing who you'd go out to depending upon which tender. Budget is hard. I think it's also being transparent both ways. So we transparently have to tell them what their budget is. So before you go out to suppliers, make sure you have chunked it out a little bit to know roughly what you're going to be able to give them. But then they also need to be transparent back to you, because at the end of the day, there's no point putting something forward to the client that you physically can't deliver. It's only just going to cause problems further down the line. So I think getting the suppliers involved in that tender process early on, before you even go back to the client with that first level of questions, because there's going to be bits there, so you can actually accurately understand, well, that supplier can deliver that for that, or, and I suppose that's then where the relationships come into it. You can have an honest conversation. We can't deliver this for that. Or actually, we could, but actually, can we do it this way? Can we think of it a bit more creatively? They've asked for you to do a plenary like this, but if we did it like this, it would fit in their budget. And that's where, as an agency, our suppliers build our strength, because then we can go back to the client with those sort of like extra ideas and stuff. So yes, the budget thing is hard. We're all being squeezed, but we're very open and transparent with our suppliers. That's the amount you've got, and kind of you've got to work within that.
Absolutely. And Kat, do you find something similar in the sectors that you serve?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my perspective is slightly different in terms of like we're micro agency really. So, I mean, that comes with its own challenges as well sometimes in terms of like where we stand competitively. Also, we're based in Newcastle, so it's a slightly different market to what you might experience in London, although we deliver events here as well and all across the UK. I guess my point being here is that because we're micro, we can be more agile as well. So we don't really have a tendering process as such. So we can be more reactive in terms of like, there's a cool new supplier, we want to try them out. Why don't we try them? See how it works on this event, particularly if it's a one-off or if the client has like a specific demand on something that we haven't yet delivered, and we'll be exploring that relationship with that supplier for that one event, and then delivering it, building on the relationship, and then like kind of learning lessons and delivering better next time, etc. So I think that's the exciting side of being a small agency. Like, we're constantly chasing our tail. We never know what's what. But at the same time, we just don't give that persona across. And we're like, oh, we're so agile all the time. We can change, we chop and change. We know what's fresh. And I love that. But I do think when I'm talking about our code of conduct, that's the side that we see as like super important. So we have a certain set of values that we make sure that when any supplier comes in, that they can adhere to those, so that we know that when we're talking about that kind of like one-stop shop thing, we're experts in what we do, but we need to know that they're experts in what they do, so that our team can remain lean while still having this like much wider level of expertise across each of the areas, as long as they're like kind of adhering into our values and kind of ergo expansion.
Absolutely. And in terms of just considering that point about looking at the different size of agencies and the agility that comes with, Peter, obviously you'd have seen a whole variety of different agencies engaged with a whole variety of them, working at GS. Do you find that it's a really different tendering process between the larger and the smaller ones? Is there an ideal way to tender, or is it completely
I'm not necessarily sure that the size of the agency dictates the style. It's more about the style of the pitch. We all talk about pitches as though they're exactly the same thing, but they're not the same thing. And all the different styles of pitch require a different level of response. But I would say that the one particular piece of the response that is more important now than ever is quality, right? The expectation of quality is so much higher than it was 5 or 10 years ago. And when you're delivering for associations, brands, your end client, their minimum expectation is that absolutely everything will run smoothly and to a high level of quality. And that's before you've even started to talk about sustainability or any of those other factors that are now very important to you. And if you're looking at things like conferences and exhibitions, it's not just your end client that you're delivering for. You're also delivering for the 57 brands that are going to be on the show floor. And if you take tech as an example, those would be some of the largest, most well-known brands in the world. So their minimum expectation is very high quality. So I think that actually the style of the pitch and the end client and the end users dictate how you answer rather than the size of the company that you're working with. Because you might be working from a GS perspective. We might be working with a small event organizer who are organizing an enormous exhibition for countless brands in here or in the NEC or in other parts of Europe. So yeah, I think it's more about quality and the style of the pitch rather than the size of the client that you're working.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on, we talked about concepts, collaboration and partnerships, and we didn't cover this in the briefing call, so you can slap me down for the bad question, but I was thinking, we talk a lot, specifically in the agency client field, we talk a lot about that being a partnership. And I think that's because, with the agency side of things, you get involved in the return on investment, the objectives, you get involved in the entire conception of it, as well as the delivery. Do we treat the agency supply chain relationship the same as that? Or from your perspectives versus agencies, do you see it more as, no, the supply chain's in charge of delivery. I'm in charge of conception, I'm in charge of theming, I'm in charge of delivering the ROI for the client, but actually their delivery? Or should they be brought in on that journey and be interested and be told what the ROI is so they can help build and consult on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are your partners, right? Because without them, you can't deliver whatever you're delivering on any scale. They need to be, and we're finding it more and more that the end client wants to know who your partners are. They want to know names. They want to bring them in. Why not have a specialist on a call if technical is their area or anything? So that comes from relationships. Obviously, that's got to be a strong partnership between you and supplier partner, so that can be strong as well. But
I haven't heard of them. Sorry, is that a new company? You said that.
at the end of the day, I suppose we're a supplier to our clients. So, we want to be treated in the same way. That partnership should then go further down the line. So that's why for us, it's partnerships. We can't do it without them. Obviously, we have Assemble Group that is, a load of different businesses. We're all big partners to each other. We work very collaboratively, and that's how we're able to then deliver and win some nice big pitches, some big tenders, because we have that skill set and that relationship. But yeah, everyone's a partner. No one should be treated like necessarily they just deliver, because, like I say, without them, you can't do it.
Absolutely. So what about from your perspective in delivering association events? Again, actually, from your perspective, how involved do you get in the overall objectives of the association? Or is it more, no, I just want to deliver a really engaging event?
Probably a bit too involved, to be honest. But it's really important that we do understand an association's objectives to be able to curate the events around them, to know what to deliver that's going to work for them on a long-term basis. And as you were mentioning, we work with our supply chain as our partners. I quite often refer to our key suppliers as family. I know things about their wives, their dogs, their kids. It's that personal connection. But on a very crude level, because we've got that close-knit relationship, when we are delivering a product or an event, if something goes wrong, something always goes wrong. It might be tiny, it might be big. They will step into the breach. And we had a big event where somebody had supplied some audio tech. It had gone wrong. Now, our AV company had nothing to do with it, but because they had the knowledge and they'd seen us getting a bit stressed behind the scenes, there was no decision to be made. They just went, I can sort this out for you. And they were straight in there. Now, if we didn't have that personal relationship with them, I don't think we would have that above and beyond delivery on site, which is really important because the client didn't know anything had gone wrong there. We did, they didn't, because it was just dealt with really quickly.
Yeah, and I suppose that comes back to the point we're talking about on the value of a longer term relationship. Yeah, because I agree. I mean, perfect example was this morning and yesterday. Obviously, it was build day of the show yesterday, and for all of the stuff that you pay for previous to that, you're probably putting in 100 last minute favors on site, aren't you? Little bits and bobs there, and I think, is it possible to have that relationship without keeping a supplier on long term? Is that something you can just find in suppliers, or do you think that is something that actually requires a bit of effort from the agency to find to?
Massively depends on the supplier or the agent. I mean, it's all relationships, isn't it? Whether or not it's long term or not. I think as long as you make it clear what your end goal and your objective is, I think you could work with any supplier and they would help you. Any good supplier, and they would help you. But I think, I mean, when I guess the original question was really around that collaboration thing, and I think anytime we were pitching, we always say we're an extension to your team. So essentially, we're going to come on and help you deliver this event. We will be your event arm. So any supplier that we work with just becomes an extension of our team, really. So there is no lines between who should solve what issue. Really, you're in it together whenever you're on site, particularly at an event. And yeah, I think there's probably loads of nice stories about like things that have maybe happened that people have been able to help you out on. And yes. The short answer is, I think longer term relationships, you know what you're getting yourself into. There's like a kind of inherent understanding about what's needed and how you're going to be able to. The supplier understands as well the benefit of the fact that they deliver a good job now. This is a retained event. They're going to get the repeat business year on year or month on month, depending on the client. So, yeah.
So what about your perspective? I've asked that already.
Yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it? Because you need your partners. Like the long-term partners are great, right? And there's stuff that you do with them year upon year. But I think also you build a bit of trust just as you grow up to an event. So whether it's a supplier that it's a brand new one, you've still had conversations, you still know about that event. And I mean, a bit like you said, like any good supplier will help you out on site. At the end of the day, everyone wants to do a good job. The event as a whole, if it's success, is a success for everyone. So I think there's sort of a bit of a morale within events people that when you get on site, everyone just clubs together and you get it done. So
Absolutely. Yeah. All hours, isn't it? All hours. Please do.
It's team game. No one company can deliver an entire event on their own. It's impossible, really. So you have to, as both an agency and a supplier, you have to first of all, you have to be good at building relationships quickly. Yes, long-term partnerships are helpful and build trust, but actually you need to build that trust quickly as well. So you need to be able to do both, because ultimately some people you won't have worked with before, but you have to make sure that they fit in with your team, your way of doing things, and conversely, you have to fit in with their teams and their ways of doing things. So that team game and that sort of team aspect and working together element is very important on both sides of the supplier agency relationship. You have to do it both ways. It's not a one-way thing. It doesn't work that.
As I want to cover kind of rules of engagement, I suppose. And, we talk about and quite right, you say it's an entire team thing to build an event, and it can't just be one company. With that, when it comes to, let's say you win that tender, let's say that the agency wins that tender for 2 years running, would you feel genuinely? Would you feel like, having delivered a good event there, you should have first refusal, or there should be some sort of notes or nods to the supplier first and foremost before you go elsewhere and give them the opportunity? Is that wishful thinking, or is that the rules of engagement for a good relationship? I don't know. No, they don't. You are?
I think it depends on if you look at it from the other side. if as a supplier or an agency, if you make a mistake or get something wrong, you'll very quickly be gone. So I don't think anyone has a right to expect to come back the next year or the year after. I think that just rests on doing a good job, keeping your quality high, making sure you're working effectively as part of a team, all the things that we all do on a day-to-day basis, no matter whether we're an agency or supplier. I think agencies and suppliers can feel aggrieved if they delivered successfully and all of a sudden they're out the door. But that then ultimately also depends on how well you formed a relationship with your client, whether you're in the supply chain or whether you're at the top end talking to the brand or whoever it is that's, delivering the event. So I think, well, I like to think that quite a low number of people who do a good job are then getting bounced out.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's again, it was I went off piece there again, but from your perspectives, the other side of the coin, what would you say your ethics are, your ethos is around that? Is it a case of I would always rather get if they delivered a good event, they delivered the brief? Would you always want to give them the first opportunity, or is it a case of no, look, I'm going to look at what the event needs at any one time?
I'd have a loyalty with them. I think if they did well, I think again though it's probably like a small agency mentality whereby like we really relish the opportunity to be able to like retain that work, so we would share the wealth essentially. But I think like in regards to when we're talking about relationship building as well, if I work with a supplier and it's sham delivery, it's like particularly good, like it's the worst BD in the world, right? You're not going to work with them again. The client will know who that person is because you've been transparent from the start. So that supplier is not going to retain the work with you. But the other side as well, I guess, depending on your client type. So we deliver events for some corporates who don't have the requirement for like an event delivery team for all of their events. They'll only bring us in for like flagship larger ones, for example. But they'll ask us who was that awesome AV team you were working with.
Yeah.
And then they'll continue to work with them when they don't work with us. And there's no there's a finder's fee for us. There's no commission for us from that AV team. We're just like, they're great. Keep working with them. The AV team are very grateful for us for giving them that work as well. And then ergo, again, you've got good relationship building as well. So I don't know, sharing the wealth, big on collaboration.
No, yeah, I suppose there's no exact answer there, but it's that's a preference. I wanted to because I've just checked time. I've waffled through that, I'm afraid. So I want to cover winning business because we talked a lot about delivering business, delivering events, and how the supply chain can help support that. But we haven't really covered about how the supply chain can be collaborative to the point where you can win new business. And I think that was something that we briefly talked about. There's all about growing client expectations, but also, I suppose for a better word, regulations that you have to adhere to around a lot of these larger corporate companies now. They'll fall on you and they'll presumably want to make sure that the supply chain you're therefore using fits in with their overall ethics. So anyone had a case study or an example of that where actually a supplier is coming and you're having them as part of it or bringing them into the conversation has really helped win a new tender or a bit of business for you?
I think it's really important to, and I think that's where your long-standing relationships help because if you're going in for a pitch or a tender, sometimes the timeline for these are really bloody short and you're having to drop a load of work to pick it up. If you know your supply chain, you know what they deliver, but it's using simple things that can bring this pitch to life. So visuals, images, videos. If you've seen that product in real life, we're always getting a back catalogue of every supplier's acts on our sites across the board. But they've also got their own nicely curated products. So when we are delivering a pitch, we are, again, with that transparency, talking about who our suppliers are. They want to know about sustainability these days. It's really important. So we're gathering all this information. The more information we can have on file, the better, because when we're building this pitch, we are giving a real full, visible vision rather than just a piece of A4 that says, yeah, we'll do a great job and this is how much it's going to cost. But, consistency does build confidence. And I'm referring to suppliers that I call family, but equally, I can't shut the door to new suppliers and new opportunities. And hence, thank you very much for putting this on today. We're still out there looking at who does what and how could that benefit us as a business. But and you look at some of the stands, there's some great visuals that you could take to clients for any pitch.
Absolutely. Zoe or Kat, from your perspectives, has there ever been a time where you've brought in a supplier that's really helped you win some business, or indeed, um, you know, had to bring in new suppliers to the chain to adhere to a client expectation?
Yeah, I mean, I think we sort of mentioned it earlier, like you never know what brief's going to come through the door. So you might not have a supplier for whatever that's going to be. So then you really do need that new supplier. You've got to quickly form a bond. You've got to be really transparent with them about what it is you need from them and what they need from you so that you can then likely to win that. I mean, we're not a massive agency. We don't have everything. We have a lot of great partners. And so that's why we need them to be able to help us win those larger jobs. And it's with them that we're able to do that. I mean, even down to when you look at like smaller incentives, you're only as good as the program that your partner puts forward in that location. So, it's on us to keep up to date with the suppliers and the partners that are on the top of their game and always improving, but it's also on them to be able to keep up with that as well. And that's where that transparency comes through. We'd much rather a partner turn around to us and say, that's not our speciality, we can't help you win that. And then we'll go and find someone else that gives us the best chance. Because at the end of the day, both of us want to win that piece of work or whatever. So yeah, I think it's the biggest thing is the transparency at the beginning.
Absolutely. And yeah, on that kind of the power of saying no as well for an overall relationship, between a supplier and an agency, I think it's good. Because if you take something on, ultimately the trust is in their hands, yeah. And if you fail to deliver on one, then not only is it a massive disappointment to the agency, but presumably that trust is broken as well. Because the next time you ask, can you do this, and you stick your hand up straight away, it's like, well, no, that went quite badly.
It's also them saying no right at the beginning. Like everyone knows sometimes these tender process or the pitches are not that long necessarily for what you actually have to deliver. So a supplier, yes, they need time to digest the brief. Yes, you can jump on a call, but if it's not their bag, then tell us first off, because not only are you gonna we don't mind if you say no because it's not your speciality. When we get annoyed is like if you're gonna tell us and we've got to deliver a pitch in two days and we're expecting your proposal through. So sort of works both ways.
Absolutely. Kat, you look like you had a point there.
Yeah, I mean, I always have a point. Because I basically I just collect stories. Like you'll gather from this that I just like chatting really. But I mean, I constantly meet people and ask them what they do and what they're capable of. And I'm part of my job, part of my role is like innovation for events as well. So it's very, very rare that we'll ever say that we can't. And one of our values is resourcefulness, and we haven't been scuppered yet. But we have clients that demand random things all the time, like life-size pink fluffy clouds for like a keynote stage, like on plenary. And it's not, there's no supplier really that I know of for like large scale pink fluffy clouds particularly, but you will meet someone at an event like this who says like, we can make that, or, we can form that. And finding people that you can lean on to be able to do things like that, I think is so important, because it keeps you at the top of the game as well, because you're not saying like, we've done it before. I think we could maybe, like, you're constantly innovating. So my team hate me because I'll constantly be like, we can do that. We can totally find that. We'll find that. And it's hard sometimes to actually put that into your proposals.
Yeah.
Because you're quoting for things and then trying to find the solution. So, but again, it's that kind of relationship building and being aware of where you are in the industry to kind of know what the price point should be at the minute, and I guess price fairly as well. So yeah, I think
So
yeah,
having that
solution.
trust, but also the kind of tactical nous as well to understand, okay, I know roughly what the market value is for these things and what the market standard is, but also I want to forge a relationship. It's that combo of both.
And innovating with it as well, I think, yeah.
As well. Yeah, please.
You think about that presentation that you're going to have to give at pitch, whether that's submitted or whether that's presented to a client, and somewhere in there's going to be at least a page, possibly a whole section on capabilities. And you will never have all of those capabilities in-house. So you talk about family, building that group of suppliers who can expand your capabilities and ultimately make you a more viable option than your competitors. That's exactly what you need as an agency. You can't expect to have them all in-house, so you need to have a group of suppliers that will elevate.
I'll see. Well, and actually, do you know what? I think that might be a fantastic point to end on. Actually, did anyone else have any bits they wanted to share, any other case study? Otherwise, I was probably going to move to questions first. Well, first and foremost, we have a quick round of applause for our fantastic panelists opening up the show. Thank you very much. We've got time for a few questions, so please whiz away. Thank you, Lizzie. Do we have a roaming microphone? Thank you very much. Not that you'll probably need it since you're about 8 feet away from us. Yeah, there's one coming around now. Do you want a headphone there?
Hi, Claire. Hi, I'm Lizzie from Odyssey Events. Kat, I resonate so much with your story because my agency is a tiny one. There's 6 of us, and mine's 8 years old now. And we tend to use the same suppliers and have really trusted relationships. But you talked a little bit about a supplier like charter or a sort of rules of engagement document or system. How do you make sure that your suppliers are, especially the long-standing ones, are staying consistent with that charter? And have you got someone in your agency that monitors that and make sure that there's always a review period? Like, how do you manage that?
Yes. And it's publicly available as well. So we have a code of conduct that goes out to any supplier that we spend more than $5,000 with, and they have to complete it a minimum of every 12 months. If they don't complete the code of conduct, we can't continue working with them until they do. But that's a regulation we speculate what's the word? We make that regulation, nobody else. But the reason that we do that is because we need to make sure that they are adhering to the same values that we do. And yes, there is one person in our organization that manages that. So that's my business partner, Sarah. We have an EA as well, a VA, a virtual assistant, who will help us out with that as well. So she sort of stays on top of making sure that that does come in every 12 months. But yeah, it's been really successful for us. It's only something we properly operated formally in the past 2 years. But we needed to do it with the kind of like growth and expansion of the company as well. So it's a really good way to make sure that you've got your kind of the trusted suppliers around you. And I think it's super important for micros. Sorry.
I'll start. I'll just keep going now. I'll just join you up there. We're thinking of doing the same thing because, like I said, we have long-standing suppliers, and I think sometimes there's a tendency to get a bit complacent if we don't challenge them and they don't challenge us. So it'd be interesting to know what kind of things are included on that. And if you could send it to me, that.
Yeah, I can do. Yeah.
I can't hear anything. Sorry.
Oh.
Well,
It was a great chat. It was a great chat.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you very much. Give me a thumbs up. Do we have any other questions from the floor? Oh, I'll know. Okay, thank you very much. Round of applause again. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoy the show. I'll see you back in the theatre soon. Cheers.